and thank you for joining us for a special Star Live session in conjunction with the launch of StarCherish.com.
People who sign up an ad in the Star country, and we asked them, would you want to have a free ad online? There were 400 of them that we tried. And it's quite amazing because that the unique visitors was three times those who put an ad, which means that a lot of relatives went in, a lot of friends went in to find out things about the death of this person.
1, 2, 3.
And just to help me to tailor my talk to you, the audience, can I have a show of hands quickly? How many of you are in the midst of reading? Oh, good. Maybe 40% of you. And you have experienced some kind of grief in the past. You're not grieving now, but you have experienced some kind of grief in the past. Okay, that makes about half of you. And so the rest of you, you are here just to learn something, right? So that you can reach out to people and comfort them and journey alongside them. But what you learn, I would encourage you to put it into practice. Because if you just listen and you learn something, but if you don't put it into practice, studies tells us very soon you forget everything. Right? Give back to the teacher. So let me quickly proceed. It's not working. Right, this recent newspaper cutting showing you what can happen when leads to his death to be with his late wife. And I think if there are people around him that can support him, such a tragedy would not have happened. And this is what that got me into grief counseling. In the year 2005, I lost my first wife, suddenly through brain aneurysm. And at the same time, I also remembered this newspaper cutting in the front page. A very prominent intellectual shot himself exactly 3 years after his wife died. He could not take it. And every year at the anniversary, he took up full page, the newspaper, the New Straits Times, the Star, and write beautiful poems about his wife. He was calling for help, but the whole nation either do not know how to help him or they don't care. So I said something is wrong. I was devastated. And I find that the people who visited me do not know how to help me, do not know what to say to help me. So to help myself, I decided to pursue a counseling course in Australia, and then eventually I specialized in thanatology, which is the science of grief, dying, bereavement, and death. So we have been on this outreach for the last 10 years. But what it tells me, or it tells us, that grief can be destructive, especially unresolved grief. And it does not matter whether you are highly intellectual, you are rich, you are poor, you are spiritual. It is no respecter of persons. And we cannot bypass the grief by being busy, by trying to forget about it, enjoy ourselves and all this. It does not happen that way. And just to highlight that there are all types of losses, right? It's not just losing someone, maybe, your girlfriend left you, you lose your house, you lose your business. And what I'm going to talk about, the principles of how to cope with grief would apply to all forms of losses, but the focus today would be the loss of a loved one. And grief that results from the loss of a loved one, is very painful. Right? In fact, it is said that it is as painful as childbirth. Right? Only that one is physical and one is more emotional. And so, grief is what we experience. The sadness, the loneliness, and the whole entanglement ball of emotions, right? It can be the result or the anticipation of loss. And it is different from mourning. Mourning is the expression of that grief. And mourning usually is done within a social or cultural context. So, if you are Hindu, then you see death differently. You see death as a transition into a reborn cycle based on how you live your life, right? And so, for the Indians, excessive lamenting is not encouraged. And as Dr. Sri Wong mentioned about, how the Chinese sees it is bad luck, right? Death in the family is bad luck. So if you were seen, for example, crying in the morning, then it's like sway, So anything to do with that, even the number 4, right? Number 4 say, sounds like that. So that is bad luck. So the whole culture actually makes it very hostile for someone who's grieving, right? So matters of death and grieving becomes something very culturally toxic, right? It is a taboo. So it ended up that modern society as a whole, people will be very inadequate when it comes to talking about matters of dying, death, and bereavement. And Malay culture, they see it as, it is fate. It's fate, that it is the fate of God that someone dies, and therefore, you're not to feel too sad about it. So you see how this cultural and religious environment makes people who need to grieve or to talk about grief makes it very inconducive for everyone. But on the other hand, grief is something that's very painful, right? And very unpredictable. It's like, the storm of the sea. Sometimes, it's very rough, and sometimes you seems to be okay, right? But at the same time, it's very unforgettable, right? We try to, go to the shopping complex to while the time away, go to the parties and all this. You will not forget the pain that is inside, right? Whether you are, going around the world, you still remember your loved one because it is all inside you. And it's very personal because it is in fact unique to you. People don't understand what you're going through, and they give you all sorts of advices, right? Sometimes you try to live to their expectations and become even worse. And so this is the kind of suffering in silence that you have to endure after the loss of a loved one. Especially when the loss is sudden, is unexpected, is untimely. And we can emerge from grief as either as a bitter person or as a better person, right? Studies have shown that there are at least 5 possible outcomes. You can come out of it, more improved as a person, or there is only partial recovery, or you can even decline, right? There's such thing, I'll tell you later, that our grief can turn chronic or acute, or what is termed in psychology, what is pathological. So 15 to 20% of people can develop what is known as complicated grief. And you see here, one man who says he's been crying for 15 years. But we have come across people who have been crying for 20, 30 years, the rest of their life, and without any progression towards improvement. And therefore, the bottom line is this: if a bereaved person does not successfully grieve, in other words, grieve in healthy, in a complete manner, right? They are more prone to illnesses, both physical and psychological. And the total absence of grief usually, right, is not a good sign. Why do we grieve? We grieve because it is natural for us, right? It is the price you pay for being close to someone, right? Or something. So if you lost a pet, right, you also feel sad, right? And that sadness is wired into us. So it is, in other words, the price that we pay for love, right? So there are 3 positions that you need to avoid, right, when you are grieving. Number 1 is the poor me victim mentality, right? And so often, we will ask, why me? Why at this time? Why this family? And all the why questions, right? If you wallow in self-pity, you sink in self-pity, right? The other one is the cure me mentality. You're so used to taking a pill and then, you're okay, right? There is no medication for grief. Right? There is medication for depression, right? But depression is not grief. The symptoms may be the same, right? Depression is because you feel depressed, for some time you cannot function and all this. But for no apparently triggered. Right? Grief is the result of a loss. And it is not a mental illness like depression. It is just a relational condition. Right? There is attachment, you lost that, you feel sad. So it is not an illness that you need to run to the psychiatrist or to the hospital or things like that. Right? And I mentioned earlier, there's no such thing as trying to bypass, trying to work, to forget, trying to, just not to touch it, as if, once you recall and then you feel all the sadness and you reject that sadness. So we have a common chart, right? If you go on for 2 years and then you come back to what is more or less normal, that is no cause for alarm. In fact, it is very usual for such thing to take place. Of course, there are ups and downs. And usually it takes 1 to 2 months before you peak in your pain. Because it takes time for the reality to sink in. Now, just to show or describe, the grief, how does it plays out, right? Almost 50 years ago, we have a psychiatrist called Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She came out with these 5 stages of grief, right? First is denial, then anger, then there'll be bargaining, depression, then acceptance. Actually, she was working in a hospital, studying people with terminal disease, facing death. And then she noticed that, these people facing death, the patients, they undergo these 5 phases of grief. And more or less she says, well, if you are a bereaved person, then you go through more or less the same thing. Right? It's just like, saying, wow, look at life. When you're young, you drink from the milk bottle, right? Then you're a boy, maybe you drink from Coca-Cola bottle. Then you go on to drinking from the beer bottle. And then when you're older, you drink from the drip. But it is too simplistic. And so people, experts nowadays, they talk about grief as something that is more messy, right? It just hits you, and it's not linear. Like going from face to face is not linear, and it overlaps, and it appears and disappears, it comes back again, and so on, right? So the more contemporary model of grief is one of oscillation, right? Sometimes you're like that, sometimes you're like this. So you oscillate between what we call loss orientation and restoration orientation. So sometimes, you're focusing on how to adjust, right? And you're feeling a little bit better, but then it is 2 steps forward and then 1 step back. Then you're back to your pain again, right? You miss your loved one, you feel lonely, you're overwhelmed by all the challenges, domestic, legal, and administrative, and so on. And then, you are very disorientated because of your emotions. So, how do we cope with all those, right? And this is what I'll be telling you about what I call the time approach, T-I-M-E. Time is needed for us to grieve, right? But There are no quick fixes. You cannot rush through it. Time can lessen the pain, no doubt. Right? We can function again. We can go to work. We can go about with our normal routines. But time alone will not heal. Right? This is what I want to emphasize, that time alone will not heal. This is a recent cherished obituary, right, by someone who lost their child, and he portrays well about the factor of time. They say time is a great healer. You ask them, when is that time? It is already 2 years today, and nothing has made us feel better. So time is needed, but time alone will not heal. Because to recover from grief, we must accept and experience the pain to the full. There is no escape one, right? Because we are wired that way. When we lose someone, we will miss the person and we will feel sad. So, how do we manage that? Number one, very easy. Only 3 points you need to remember. Number one, learn to embrace that pain. Right? Do not fight the grief. Do not fight the pain as though it is an unwelcome guest. Because it is natural that we miss for someone or something, we will feel sad. It is natural. So you tell yourself that I will be in a difficult time, right? I will feel sad. I will feel all the difficulty for a season, right? This is the price that I pay for loving someone or being close to somebody, right? And we call this leaning on to our grief. In other words, you try to accept it and relax and let go. It's like if you go to the, let's say if you go to foot massage. You know what I'm talking about, foot massage? If you are very tense, right, it is very painful. And then the masseur will say, 放松, 放松. Now relax, relax. Right? So if you learn to relax and not tense, right, it is not painful, it becomes soothing. And so you relax yourself into this period of pain, right? Of course, you have to be kind to yourself now. If you're still working as hard as before, trying to meet all your KPI as before, sorry, right? You need to give yourself more time, pamper yourself a bit, relax into this difficult time to grieve over your loss. Right? This is learning to embrace the pain. And the second point is you learn, right? What are the normal manifestations of grief? So you don't panic, you don't get tense, right? If you know it is normal that most people will go through such manifestations, then you don't have to run to the hospital or to the doctor, right? And you're not going crazy. So to have disorientation, for example, is very normal, right? Everybody will be disorientated, and you forget what you do. You put the electric iron into the refrigerator, and you want to go to the kitchen, you land up in the bedroom. You are disorientated because the loss impacted you, right? And there's tremendous change that your body has to cope. Right? You feel guilty, you feel lonely. Grief really drains your energy. You feel very tired. So these are the normal emotional manifestations, right, that are common to a lot of people. And you don't have to think that, you're going crazy, you're about to die, right? You're not. It's just a normal process. And cognitively, there will be a lot of disbelief. Am I dreaming? What has happened? Or things like that. There'll be a lot of confusion, and there'll be identity crisis. Who am I now? Am I now a widow or still married, or things like this, and you just lose purpose and hope in life, right? Because you do not know how the future will be. So these kind of things cognitively in your brain, it will play around you like a broken record. So you'll be crying, you have change in appetite, there's social withdrawal, absent-mindedness, and reliving the last moments of the loss, right? It's very common. So it plays again and again in your mind, right? Especially when it is traumatic, right? So it's like a broken record that plays and plays. So these are the things which are normal manifestations, together with some, symptoms of sicknesses, right? Like vomiting and dryness in the mouth, the throat, and breathing, and heart pressure, and all this. These are very common. So you are experiencing all these symptoms, right? Of course, you need medication. Go and see the GP will do that, right? for all these symptoms, but you are not dying. You are not going crazy. So at least for the first 2 months, you're okay. It is expected, right? For people, especially when the death is sudden or unexpected, or is untimely. So, can I recap? Number 1, try to embrace, lean on to the pain. Number 2, knowing what are normal, right? That will be very comforting and reassuring to you or the person you're reaching out to, right? So number 3 is the last one, right? Doing the grief work, doing the grief work. We usually will try to escape from the pain, right? Because it is painful, right? Rather than traveling through the grief process like a journey, right? We will want to quickly recover, come out of it. And this is not the right thing, right? What needs to be done is doing the grief work. Just hiding in the room and crying and says, oh me, I'm finished, there's no more future for me, and you can be crying for 10 years. And if you don't do the grief work, then you stay at the same emotional level. Right? So what is grief work? Grief work are efforts to confront your grief. Right? Grief work are efforts to experience the grief. So, because it is painful, we will not want to do the grief work. Or, there's a lot of social pressure around us, or because we just lack the knowledge of what grief is about, so we do not know how to manage it, how to handle the grief. And most often it's because of lack of support. The people whom we can talk to, instead of understanding us and journeying alongside us, offer all sorts of advices that makes it more painful, makes you angry, right? So that is the unfortunate situation, right? And therefore, we want to do the grief work so that we can avoid going into complications. And studies have shown that 15 to 20% of people can get what we call stuck in their grief for years, right? When you should be back to your normal within 2 years. And if you have the proper support, in other words, someone who can empathize with you, can support you and, can listen to you with an empathetic ear, right? You can even do it within 1 year or less. So this is a typical presentation of 3 possible grief journeys. Right, this is for people that 15-20% persons who get stuck in the grief, but 2 years is normal, and with the proper understanding and support, right, you can do it within 1 year or less. It's not moving again. Okay, good. So, doing the grief work using the time approach. So time stands for number 1, T is telling the loss, right? Instead of isolating yourself from people, you need to find someone to tell the loss, someone who can sing with you at your emotional level, right? Because the loss is usually traumatic to you. And like all forms of trauma, when you start to talk, right, to someone who understands you, that telling, that talking, right, will be therapeutic to you, right? This is an essential part of the grief work. Because even as you talk, right, it fights against the initial denial. Denial is a natural body protective mechanism, right, that prevents us from being overwhelmed by what is taking place, right? And so when you start to talk, it fights against that denial and help us to actualize our loss experience. So there are a number of other benefits, right? Besides denial, besides processing the experience, right? It also helps us to ventilate our emotions instead of coping it all up, right? It reduces the compulsions of replaying the loss, right, in our minds, and it switches our mindset from being something passive to a more survival stand to help us to cope with the loss. And of course, when we start to talk, right, to someone, then we will understand, right, and that someone will also hear you saying what are the issues that will be acting as obstacles, standing in the way to your grieving process. Because you may not know and nobody will know unless you start to express. And then you find that, wow, I'm having a lot of guilt. Wow, I'm not having a lot of anger. Wow, I'm having a lot of anxiety. Right? All these issues complicates your grief. So all these issues has to be resolved, like you taking out all the roadblocks along the way. Right? So telling the loss, find people who can listen to you empathetically, right? And because when you feel that they understand you, then you'll be encouraged to talk more about your loss experience. So if you cannot find someone, what is alternative? Not so good, but nevertheless, it is the next best alternative. You start to write, right? Start to journal. Or your whatever experience, start to pour out in writing instead of talking to someone. So T stands for telling the loss, right? I already mentioned issues. Issues has to be resolved, right? Because all these issues are like roadblocks. And there can be emotional, cognitive issues, there could be practical issues that need to be resolved, and there could be spiritual issues, right? Unless you can come to terms with all these issues, you can get stuck in them and not make progress. You getting me? Right? Am I too fast or too slow? Okay, just nice, very good. For example, if you are saying, oh, wow, if only I have done this, then she would not have died, right? If only I have not done that, right, then this tragedy would not have happened, right? When you say all this, if only, right, it's an indication that you are having guilt in you, right? So you have to talk with someone and say, well, actually, at that time, you did the best you can, and you do not know that it is so serious, isn't it, that she will die so fast, right? But you thought that is the best for him. So you find that a lot of our guilt actually has no solid basis, why? Because something has happened that is not within your control. You want to find someone to blame. And the easiest one is to blame you. If only I had taken better care of him, he wouldn't have died. So all the if only, you find yourself a convenient target to blame. Because you're so used to that, science and effect kind of thing, right? Cause and effect. Something happened, someone is responsible for it, right? So sometimes you blame the doctor. The doctor never do a good job, that's why she died. Sometimes you blame the police. Police never control properly, right? Or the hospital, right? And you get angry. So guilt is blaming yourself. But when you are angry, you're blaming everybody else. Blaming the in-laws, blaming the nurses and all that, right? So how to deal with anger? Dealing with anger is you have to bring that anger to its right target. Because if let's say your spouse died of cancer, right? You can blame the oncologist. Never diagnosed properly. Treatment not accurate. Just want the money only. Right? These are not the right target. Right? This is only trying to find someone to take the blame. Right? What caused the death of your loved one? If he dies of cancer, then it's the cancer. So if you get angry with cancer, how long can you get angry? So when person is angry over so many things, usually is not the right target. So by talking with someone who can reason out reasonably, logically with you, then you divert it to the right target. So, well, yeah, the cause of my spouse death is cancer. So, rightly I should be angry at the disease. Right? So if you are angry at cancer, you can't get angry for very long. But if you're angry at the doctor for a lifetime, you can get angry, and get stuck with that, Every time you see his face, you get very angry. So, that is what I'm trying to say, right? Finding the right target. Now, quickly we move on to TIM. M is meaning, right? Because we will lose purpose, we will lose direction. When something like a loss happens to us, of course, if the old lady, the old man is already 90 over years old, 100 over years old, right? That loss is anticipated, You wouldn't hit us so bad. But like my first wife, suddenly, just within a few hours, died of brain aneurysm. No health reasons, no health warning and so on, right? Perfectly all right, and just went to work and then, come back feeling dizzy and that's all. So that kind of sudden, unexpected, untimely loss can hit you, really shakes you to the core. Then you what you take for granted in life no longer holds. You think it's a world that is seemingly quite orderly, and then you have your worldviews of certain things. Well, all these are shaken. And you find that, you got no bearing, no handle to hold on to. So you need time, you need to journey through to rediscover a certain way you look at life that can accommodate what has happened to you. And so you will embark on the process of rediscovering what is your purpose in life? What is your direction? What is the meaning of all this? Right? And to have someone that can support you in terms of that kind of process, it is very encouraging. Someone to guide you. Of course, that person cannot do that kind of searching for you. Only you know what will satisfy you. And we all have different standards, different degrees that will satisfy our new search for meaning and purpose and direction. And what's next? So instead of asking why this, why that, how come this happened, and all the whys and how comes, right? Someone to encourage you to, after you've asked all that you want and not getting any answers, right? Or come up with a lot of speculative answers, and someone can point that out to you, right? If there's a person who would encourage you to move on and do something that is more productive, instead of asking all the whys, what now for me? Right? What can I benefit? What can I learn from this lost experience, from this tragedy? Right? What is there for me? And what is there for my family? Right? And it will be good if there's someone to guide you and to check you on this, so that you can rediscover back the worldview that can fit into your new chapter in this life without your lost loved one. Right? That is rediscovering meaning. So, if you've gone through all that, you're on the way to recovery, right? Hopefully this would not even take 2 years, right? This might even take 1 year or less, because as you do this, you are doing the grief work. You are confronting your loss. You are dealing with the grief. And there will be a time where you find that you come to a new normal. Things will not be the same again, right? Without the presence of your loved one. So we call it a new normal, right? But if you discover that you are able to talk about the loss without the intense pain, right? You may be feeling sad from time to time, right? But you are also finding that you are starting to regain an interest in life and reinvesting in yourself when you've been fully absorbed with your pain previously. And you feel that you are more hopeful in life. You can adopt your new identity, your new role. I am now a widow or a widower, right? I'm now a grieving person, right, when my son has died, right? And you accept that there will be bad days. Then you more or less has recovered, right, from your grief. And this is the position that we want to be emerging, hopefully as a better person than a bitter one. But on the other hand, if you still find yourself struggling, especially after 2 years, that you are still being overwhelmed when you talk about your loss, or you have a disproportionate fear of death, and every time you talk with someone, then you have to refer back to your husband. He was like that, this is what I did wrong for him before he died, and so on, right? It is unresolved things coming up again and again in daily conversations. And if you are neglecting your health, right, and you are not getting back into daily life, or you're preoccupied with suicidal, all right, trying to be with your, loved ones who died, that is suicidal ideation, especially after 2 years. Or if there are some unexplained sicknesses, symptoms here, symptoms there, and the doctor did all the tests but could not find, you are still in the grave, right? And especially after 2 years or what, you need professional help, right? And that is a case for referral, right? Because what can easily develop is, I mentioned earlier, complicated grief, right? So I think I made it 45 minutes.
Good morning, Doctor. My name is Sangeeta. I'd just like to ask you guys, I work in a private hospital, and I'm also in charge of patient relations. I've also just graduated from Master in Counseling. So there are times that I'm being called to offer support to patients' family with unexpected death that normally occurs in the emergency department. So normally the few times that I've experienced, I normally what do you say? The first few words are always the biggest challenge, like, what do you say? I don't say anything, I give more touch. I offer support through touch. What do you do?
Okay. First of all, I think you have to learn certain basic things, right? Like you have to mention so and so, and he died. In other words, you don't beat around the bush. Okay? Dying is dying. Some people pick the bucket, all sorts of foreign terms. So that is that. And he said in past tense, he did not make it. I'm sorry. offer your condolences, right? I am assuming that you are in a private place. Of course, they need that kind of privacy. Okay, and usually your role would be to bring the relative to the bereaved family and help them to do the necessary arrangements for the burial of the body, right? Beyond that, I think at this stage there is not much that you can do because the focus really is on the funeral arrangements, right? You can do a lot of good work eventually by visiting them, right? Maybe few weeks down the road, when all the relatives are gone and they start really to feel the pain, the loneliness, the absence of the loved one, right? There is the whole series of things of what you should do. In fact, not long ago, I was asked by the Gleneagles Hospital to brief all the specialists, how to handle things like this. But at this stage, I think the minimum the most you can do is really to help them to accept the reality of the loss, right? And attend to whatever that needs assistance, like making difficult phone calls, things like this, right? Unfortunately, my experience with the loss of my first wife was really horrible in a hospital. Because the doctor talked to me and my family when everybody was crowding around us, and I was told such things like, well, you can collect the body tomorrow after all the fees are paid. I said, well, that's all that you're interested in. And what was worse that is when she died the night before, and the doctor told me that well, she had kind of passed on. But we are not sure. We still have to do 2 tests to confirm it, and the test costs so much. So, I'm all confused. Has she died or not died? Do we continue to pray for her, or just let her go? Things like this. Unfortunately, it's happening in our hospitals. So now that you are working in this hospital and you have counseling, training, I hope you do something better than all these doctors.
Can you repeat the next question?
Thank you.
When we talk about 20 years, my father died. Actually, even then he was sent to the hospital. He never been to the hospital when he was. And he died on my birthday. And it was good that I was teaching communication, human communication, and I learned about the grief and all that. And that's why I make sure that I come for this talk, because I think it's important for you to help people who is grieving, because it'll help. I never talk to anybody, I just buried myself working, but when I'm alone, I cry. I even talked to about the moth. I saw the moth there. I said, why are you always in the house? I keep on talking. And I said, That was over 25 or anything. I said, if you are Daddy and you come to visit me, you don't fly, you just stay on the wall. That is me. I talk to the moth. So even this morning, I'm coming here, I went for, I do exercise practically every day, and as the moth was coming, I said, is this a coincidence up to today? And even when they were showing the star cherries, and this music, the introduction made me cry. I don't know, maybe I never grieve. I never really do the grief work, like now I understand. But I think what I want to share is, it's good, it's about touching. And then I lost my brother, who is younger than me, who was younger than me. And I was walking along Bangsa, and there was a Mercedes car stopped beside me and horned me, and I saw it was my classmate, my MBA classmate. And she said, oh, come in. So I went in. She said, how are you? I said, I'm not good. She said, why? I said, I lost my brother. And she just hugged me. I think that was the best. When we were in the class, she wasn't the very bright one, but she likes me. I moved away from her, actually. It was very bad because she doesn't discuss. She agreed with everything, but when you're in the MBA, you have a group chat, a group discussion. You want people to speak out. She doesn't. So I moved away and she came and joined me. But, so I didn't really think that I want to mix with her. But because of the hug, what I want to share with you, because of the hug, she can't really talk very much. And I say, she is a good friend. And now she is my best friend. There's no need words, but she hugged me. But sometimes it can get difficult, especially with Muslim. If we are female and a male, you can't. But I think even if not because of the religious, I think it will be good to have a hug. When I started teaching communication, human communication, I realized that sometimes you don't need words. And she now is my best friend. We don't really need to talk. And I can tell her what I think, and I help her so much. Sometimes we are busy, we don't talk to each other. But most of the time when we talk to each other, we really talk for hours. I think it's important to have somebody who can show empathy. It is very important. I wish I had a friend. I have many friends, but I felt that I could not share my grief. I could not because I was scared that people would be tired of me, listening to you, and not many people are good listeners. So I know I'm one. I know I can listen and never say one word. And then sometimes I just give a hug. I felt that. And I think a hug is very important. Physical contact. I will never forget the hug she gave me. And I decided then and there she's going to be my good friend. That's how I feel. And I think I want to share with you all. Thank you.
Then better not say anything at all. Right? Your presence would be good enough. And reach out to them in their deepest, darkest moments in their life. They will always remember you. Right? And at the end of it, people do not care how much you know. They want to know how much you care for them. Right? So reach out to them. There are many suffering people in our midst. It's just that we choose to ignore them. Right? And I'm sure if you start to open your eyes a bit, there are many people who are really suffering, in need and grieving, right? So you look out for them, say something to them now that you have something what to say, right? You feel a bit more confident, right? Then you show them that care and compassion. I think it's so lacking. in our society today. All right.
Classmate whose husband passed away a month ago. Now she wanted to open up herself and wanted to talk about, you see, the death. Lately, before the death of the husband, both of them did not have a good relationship. And each time when she wanted to open her mouth to say something or to confide in me in something, she said, my children, my daughter said, you are not to tell anybody about anything about us and about the family matters. I want you to keep quiet. But she wanted to open up so much, I'm trying to reach out to her, it's difficult. So this is the first question. The second question is, just like what Dr. Guang was saying, he has booked a place in Nevada. Now, nowadays with, in this modern population, most of the children are away. Now, if I am to die now, I told the family, please throw my ashes into the sea. So what's your opinion? Thank you.
It is important for a bereaved person not to live to the expectation of others, including the children. Right? It is healthy for her to speak to someone who can empathize with her and to resolve those issues. She must do it. Of course, if possible, she do it between the two of you and not, in front of the children, right? Now, what you're saying is that there are a lot of unfinished business that needs to bring a closure to those unfinished business, right? So it is so essential for her to be able to pour out. If she doesn't want to pour out to someone like you, right, she can start writing letters to her husband, to her late husband. And that is not like communicating, but really to pour out what is left unsaid in her, so that she gets that comfort. But she can pour out to you and, bring some closure to all those things, even to the extent of maybe says, I want to make all these apologies to the husband, right? Then you can encourage her, or you type a letter and, just for the sake of doing it, right? To bring those closures, because if she harbors so much of all this unfinished business within her, right? She can get stuck in her grief and not make any progress, because that is preventing her from, really dealing and confronting with other aspects of the grief, right? So please, encourage her to open up to you, irrespective of what the children does not know, because they want face, right? So, but her health is more important. Her mental health is more important than what is all this so-called face saving of the children. Probably they don't understand. They don't understand all these complications, right? Now, whether you want to bury yourself or you want to be cremated and throw your ashes into the sea, it is a personal choice, right? So there's not much for me to comment, right? Either way, it's being done. So it depends on the preference of the one. Of course, it is good for you to talk, right, to your loved ones in the event of what happens to you. You want it to be done this way or that way.
Because of my sisters passed away, all those kind of things. And this has been struggling for about 2 years. And now I'm taking a break from my work. And also I've been attending some of the so-called those NGO talk especially recently, actually I attended a course, all right, at this Befriender. And what you're talking about is actually, I experienced it, understand through this Befriender and courses. And I believe that those people in the grief, they need to find a channel to talk to, all right? And during this session, I also understand that my sister's children, the only son, that he's having this problem, which is nobody aware of this. And through this session, then I realized that sometimes that you yourself, family, may not able to help. So the only way is you get a channel for the children to talk to, like a counselor or something. That is what I want to share. All right, thank you.
Right. So support in grief would take, more than just phone calls. They handle a lot of potential suicide cases and so on, right? Of course, if you are lonely, you can still talk to them, but usually it's better to talk with someone face to face, who can journey alongside you, right? And therefore, it is so important that we educate people, right? What grief is all about, educate them, what the grieving process and what is the right approach. So, as a society, as a community, right, we can in some way care for others who needs our support and comfort, right? Other times where we might need that kind of support and comfort ourselves. And therefore it is so good if, as common people, we all know to handle such basic things, right? And so, there are various information in the website, right, including they publish a number of my articles in the Cherish Page website, right? You can pick up a lot of things, right? What to do, 1, 2, 3, 4 in all important form, right? In order to play your part as a caring citizen of your neighbors, right? So I would encourage everyone, that since you are interested in this, to be more knowledgeable in this area of grief management.
Thank you, Dr. Edmonds.